Hey everybody, I'm JJ, you're watching Reality Survival, and so today I'm going to talk to you how to become a prepper in 30 days. It's a little bit of a, you probably can't do all these things in 30 days unless you got a lot of money and a lot of time, but it's sort of just to kind of go by a list of things to think about if you want to get into this disaster preparedness thing. 2020 and even 2021, had been probably banner years as far as disaster preparedness goes. Pretty much everybody understands that the supply chain is very vulnerable, that grocery stores don't always have the things that you might need them to have, and that sometimes bad things happen that disrupt the system. COVID-19, prime example. The economic collapse in China that's happening right now. That could be problematic for America because we get all our stuff from them, right? Backup of shipping containers out at the port of LA. These things happen. They happen on a regular basis. Stuff happens. And so disaster preparedness to me is just all about being able to take care of your family, being a responsible citizen so that you can take care of yourself and you don't have to rely on the government, right? And there's a lot of things that go into that, but a lot of reasons why it's important to do that. But let's just go through this list here. We'll go through this list, and I think it's basically the concept is there's 31 things on the list. And the idea here is it's kind of like the first big 30 steps or whatever. And if you could do those one each day, then you could become a prepper in 30 days. All right, so number one is take a first aid class. In any different kind of disaster scenario, there is almost always potential for injury. And so it's really important that you know how to use first aid equipment so that you can take care of yourself, you can take care of your loved ones, and you could treat somebody, and maybe you would be the first responder on a scene or something like that. And so taking a first aid class is really important. Next one, number two, is spend a day studying your area and what disasters happen historically in that area. So take some time, go back, do a little bit of research and say, do forest fires occur here? Do we get tornadoes? Know your area. And then maybe if you've lived there for 20 or 30 years, you don't have to do this, but specifically, do a little bit of a study, like a little bit of research to find out what are the critical infrastructure nodes in your area that could fail? And what are the historical disasters that happen there? Where does your county sit in relation to water and food, or your home sit in relation to water and food and all those kinds of things? And just do a little bit of research to really understand where you are, what happens there, what the potentials are, for problems to happen, and take and make some notes. Create a little notebook or something like that, and kind of go through that. And I've got some different videos that have talked about some of this stuff in the past, and so take a look at that stuff. Different ways to gather intelligence, all that kind of stuff. All right, so number three is outfit your home with multiple 10-pound fire extinguishers and put new smoke detectors in your smoke alarms. Now, when I do this, I think it's important to think about how you would have to react if you woke up in the middle of the night and your house was on fire, because believe it or not, houses burn down pretty frequently. And so this is why it's pretty high on the list here, is because you really need to think about how you can fight a fire inside your house if you woke up and it was burning. If you have to go get to your children's room, do you have fire extinguishers in your bedroom, in your closet, along the way on the path to get to your children? That's important, I think, because that to me is the overall goal, is get my kids get out of the house, right? So I want to set myself up for success if I had to fight a fire like that. So think about getting some of those items and pre-positioning them in the most logical places possible in case you had to fight your way through a fire to get to your kids. Number three, okay, so that's number four. Plant a garden in your backyard and get all the tools that you need to use it. Gardens in World War II, victory gardens, were great ways that people supplemented their caloric intake and were able to make some of their own food. And here's the thing. especially depending on where you live. Gardening can be hard. I got my ass kicked in Cheyenne when I lived there trying to garden there. I mean, it is awful. It's an awful environment to try to garden. And so depending on the place where you're at, if stuff doesn't grow really well, you might need some practice. You might need to get a system in place. And so you want to start that garden early on if possible. Number 5 is create a toolbox home first aid kit. So get you a big toolbox, plastic or whatever, something that'll still fit in your, your bathroom closet or whatever. You don't want it too big, and fill that thing full of first aid supplies. I've done a video on what I did with mine that are commonly used for household type injuries. All right, that's gonna go a long ways towards getting you prepared to deal with whatever comes your way. Don't forget to put a tourniquet in there and some bleed stop stuff just in case you have a major laceration that you have to deal with. All right, number 6 is buy a 9mm semi-automatic everyday carry pistol, holster, 3 magazines, and 250 rounds of ammo. And the reason I say this is just because I think as citizens of the United States, it's important that we exercise our Second Amendment rights to defend ourselves. And so if you live in a state that will allow you to do so, then you should probably, if you're a responsible citizen, consider becoming an armed citizen. And if you don't live in a state where they allow you to do so, maybe move. That's just my opinion. Okay, and the next one, number 7, is take a defensive pistol carry class. Just because you can carry a firearm doesn't necessarily mean you should unless you are trained properly and you know how to use it, and you know what the laws in your state are so that you can use it appropriately and legally. A lot of people don't know what the Castle Doctrine is, or they don't know what a stand your ground laws are and all that kind of stuff. That's important that you learn those things so that you understand what the requirements for a self-defense shooting are. Like what's the legal framework in which you're authorized to use a firearm in self-defense. Take a class, they'll teach all that stuff, and those are important things to do. Number 8 is buy 6 5-gallon gas cans. Now the reason I say 6 is because the 30 gallons is usually like the size of a big pickup truck gas tank or something along those lines. That's going to give you a good fill up, or a small car might be 15, so maybe you get 2 good fill ups. And having some extra gas on hand is important. Right now here in Indianapolis, the industrial gas supply lines are having some pretty significant issues, and trucks are being turned away and told that they can only get so much, and it's being rationed. That's what I heard the other day on the Economic Ninja channel. I haven't heard that for myself personally here. I just heard it through them, so I'm relying on their level of accuracy. But the point is, we had the cyber attack with the gas line pipeline out east, and people were rushing to the pump and everything. If you've already got at least some gas at your house, and you know that you got enough to get you through the week or through a couple of weeks, then you don't have to be too worried about having to go and try to get gas at the last minute. And I mean, look at how many fights break out at gas pumps when there's gas shortages. I mean, it's like a dangerous place to be. So having some extra gas on hand just makes sense. Number 9, pretty basic stuff here, but air up the spare tire in your vehicle. When's the last time you aired up the spare tire in your vehicle? Tires get flat. And if your spare is also flat, it doesn't do you much good. Also, locate the jack lug and wrench and put together a small get-home bag to keep in your car. And a get-home bag, for those who are new to prepping, is basically just a little bag that's got, an extra pair of socks and maybe a comfortable pair of shoes, maybe some food and water, maybe, some hand warmers, maybe an extra set of gloves and a hat or something along those lines. Whatever it would be that you would need to keep you alive from wherever you work at to wherever your home is. Now, some people, if you live and work 100 miles, away, then you're going to need a lot more stuff. If you live 10 miles away, you're going to need a lot less. So it really just depends on your situation, but having a get-home bag is a pretty good idea, and making sure that your spare is aired up and ready to go. Number 10, fill your pantry up with long-term shelf life foods that you normally eat, and then rotate that stock once it's filled so that it always stays full. Now, I've got on my website, AmericanPreppingAcademy.com, there is a lesson on there that talks about food, and it's got essentially just a random kind of, or not random, but a list of long-term foods that'll last a long time that people eat on a pretty regular basis. It's got how many calories are on there. It's got how long the shelf life it normally lasts, and it's got the caloric intake on it. And the list is designed to feed 4 people for a year, and that's about 1 million calories per person per year is what you need. And so you can take a look at that. You can take a look at that spreadsheet if you want. It's free to download, and that'll give you a place to start. You can customize that list for your stuff, the stuff that you like, and it'll give you a good item to go off of. Now, and if you can't get a whole year in your pantry, most people can't. That's okay. Go for shoot for 3 months or something like that. Okay, the next one is install high security door locks and/or door armor on your home. Now, the reason I say this is not because I'm paranoid or anything like that. It's just because as the economy goes downhill, crime goes up. It's just an inverse relationship that we see happen all the time. It's a normal reaction when people struggle to survive and they struggle to make ends meet. Then they turn towards crime and they turn towards thieving and taking things. And so if you can make your home a harder target, then you're more likely to deter the criminals and they'll go somewhere else. That's the whole goal behind that. And it gives you a little bit more time if you're sound asleep at night to be able to react if people are having a hard time getting into your house. Okay.
A person was detected.
Yeah. Let's see here. The next one, sorry. My screen is glitching out. All right. Okay, number 12 is take a day hike. Number 12, take a day and talk with your neighbors that you don't know. All right, so if you've got some neighbors that are good close friends, then that's great. You should continue to develop that relationship. If you have other neighbors that you don't know, spend some time with them. Go talk with them. Maybe help them out with a yard project or something along those lines. But it's important to get to know your neighbors, because in a disaster situation, the people who live around you are the people that you're going to need to rely on and or have to be worried about, right? And so wouldn't it be better if you have a relationship formed already so that you can work together to get through that tough time, right? That's kind of the idea there. All right, number 13 is purchase a home defense shotgun, plate carrier, ammo pouches, 100 rounds of buckshot, 100 rounds of slugs, and 100 rounds of birdshot. So home defense, from a home defense perspective, I'd say it's mostly universally accepted that a 12 gauge shotgun is probably the most lethal home defense weapon. Some people will say it's an AR-15, I don't know. But the cool thing about shotguns is that, my phone is just giving me a hard time here. The cool thing about shotguns is that they are very versatile. And so from a prepping perspective, you can use shotguns in a lot of different ways. You can use it for home defense, you can use it for bird hunting, you can use it for deer hunting, you could use it for goose hunting. There's just all different kinds of ways that you can use a shotgun. And so that's why I recommend that a shotgun is the next one to buy. And if you're gonna put yourself in a circumstance where you're using a shotgun in a defensive capability, to me it only makes sense that you have some sort of bulletproof plate to cover your vitals. That's not necessarily that you're gonna have to go be Army man and all that kind of stuff. It's just that bullets go both ways, right? If you're gonna be in an engagement where you're potentially having to defend your home from somebody invading in your home, then you want to give yourself the best advantage possible to live, and so make sure you've got those plates and stuff like that as well. Okay, number 14 is take a tactical shotgun course. If you've never taken a shotgun course, you've never practiced with it and that kind of thing, then you're probably not going to be very efficient at using it. And so you should take a class and you should go and learn some drills that you can practice on a regular basis. because a lot of people don't really know or understand very well what the capabilities of shotguns actually are. They think that you can just kind of point it in the right direction and shoot it and it's going to get the person and you don't have to worry about it. That's not true. And so there's a lot of things that you need to learn about shotguns and what their limitations are, what their actual capabilities are. And the only way you're going to do that is really go into a good class. All right, number 15 is create an emergency folder with all of your important papers. Now what I did is I bought a big 3-ring binder from Amazon. It's about that big, about that thick. And I just filled it up with all the important things like birth certificates and social security cards and insurance papers and tax documents and house paperwork that show that you own your house, warranty deeds and different things like that, car titles, you name it. I've got a whole list over at AmericanPreppingAcademy.com. You can go to the download section and download a list of all the items that you should keep in your emergency binder. You want to place that in a place that makes it fairly easy for you to get to if your house was burning down. So you grab your kids and you get them out of the house, you get your emergency binder, kind of on the way out the door or whatever as you're going, and you're going to be in a lot better shape if possible. And you should also go ahead and digitize all those things and put them in a secure, like flash drive or in a secure online storage as well. But having an emergency folder, is important. Number 16 is purchase a gravity-fed water filter with several extra filters. Now you can get the one that I've got. That's the Alexa Pure Pro. I think it's probably the best one on the market when it comes to what it will filter out, and when you also combine the design of the filters, I think it's the best personally. Berkey's also a great system. No, I don't mean to say that they're not good, but the Alexa Pure Pro is just a little better in my opinion. Now this, you can go to realitysurvivalfood.com and they will have a deal on there where you can get one of those. I think they're running some sort of special. I don't remember what it is right now. Might be $40 off or something. You'll have to check it and see. There's also some food deals on there from My Patriot Supply, and you can check those out as well for having some long-term food. But water filter is really important, and as we've seen multiple times throughout multiple different disasters, especially up in Michigan right now with lead and stuff in the pipes and all that kind of thing, you want to have a filter that's going to be able to make water safe to drink, and that's what these filters will do. All right, number 17 is spend a day learning how to can vegetables and get all the supplies you need to do that. So you've built a garden and you're gonna at the end of the season, you're gonna have some produce. You wanna be able to store that produce in some nice glass jars and all that kind of stuff and put it up so that it stores for a long time. Just this kind of things that your grandparents used to do, it's not that big of a deal. But learn how to can vegetables. Number 18 is get a comprehensive emergency trauma kit like an EMT might carry. Now, I've showed you guys some of my kits in the past. It's basically a big orange bag and it's got all kinds of stuff in it for dealing with a wide variety of emergencies that you might see in a disaster situation. And the reason you got to be able to treat that stuff... Let me turn this off. That's really annoying. The reason you got to be able to treat this stuff yourself is because sometimes...
a person was detected.
Yeah, I know. Okay, be quiet now. All right. The reason you got to be able to deal with this stuff is because sometimes hospitals are not, they're overloaded and you can't get to them, or the lines are really long and they're having a hard time or something like that. And so you want to be able to deal with stuff on your own if you can. Number 19 is create a family communication plan that doesn't rely on cell phones or internet. You want to have a duress word in there, rally points, radio frequencies, different things like that. And I've done some videos on that. I also have a lesson on that on my website as well. So you guys can check that out. Number 20 is purchase an AR-15, 10 magazines, tactical belt to go with it, as well as pouches to carry your magazines and everything, and a blowout kit, and 1,000 rounds of ammo. Now, this 1,000 rounds of ammo might sound like a whole lot, but if you go out and you go do a good full day's, training at a training course, which is going to be the next one on the list, you're gonna blow through 500 rounds of that probably. So then you want to have some to keep on hand for proficiency. Every once in a while, go out and fire 100 rounds or so and make sure that everything's still in working order and all those kinds of things. Now, AR-15, some people might be like, oh my gosh, why would you want to have an AR-15? It's a great home defense weapon also, just like a shotgun. It's good for protecting your community, exercising your Second Amendment rights. And if there was ever a foreign invasion or anything like that, which is crazy, and I'm sure it would never happen, but who knows, right? It has happened in the past. It could happen in the future. Then you would be able to defend your area and take care of your family. That's the idea behind it. Okay, so number 21, like I said, is take a tactical carbine course. Really need to do this. If you're going to own these style of weapons, shotgun, pistol, all those kind of things, you need to be trained in them. All right, you got to go learn how to use them. Standing on a line and just shooting, I thought I turned that off. She's driving me crazy. Standing on a line and just shooting paper, bang, 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 that doesn't really teach you what you need to know about how to use a firearm. So where was I at? Okay, so we said take a tactical carbine course. Yeah, you really gotta learn how to use these tools. Okay, you really gotta learn how to use them. You gotta know what their capabilities are. You gotta know what your capabilities are. What can you actually do with them? You might find that you're not as capable as you might have thought at one point. So go take a class. Number 22 is put up 300 pounds of rice, beans, wheat, salt, and sugar in Mylar bags and 5-gallon buckets. Now, the amounts are up to you. Do whatever you want. A lot of people ask me, why do you want to just put up carbs, like rice and wheat and corn and different things like that? And beans are more protein, but why are you so worried about that? The reason is those are difficult to cultivate on your own. Okay, it's difficult to cultivate a whole bunch of wheat and be able to pick it and all that kind of stuff on your own. It's difficult to grow rice all on your own. Same thing with corn and all that kind of stuff. So you can do sweet corn and whatnot, but we're talking about harder corn where you grind it up into cornmeal and all that kind of stuff. And these foods in particular store very well. So when you put it up, if you do it correctly, you can store it away for 30 plus years, 25 to 30 plus years, right? And you did it once, you don't have to mess with it, and it's done. But if you ever had a situation where you really needed to get calories and there was a really big shortage or something along those lines, you can supplement in those rice and beans and wheat and all that kind of stuff into your normal pantry food, and you can really start to stretch out the length in which that will last. Okay, and that's why that's important. All right, number like I said, you can do reality survival food. If you want to get the buckets and all that kind of stuff, then you can check that out and get those. Number 23 is put together a bug out bag for each person in your family. Now, a bug out bag to me is not necessarily that, most reasonable people are probably not going to put a bug out bag on their back and go traipsing up into the mountains and live in the mountains somewhere. I mean, if that's your only option, then I guess that's your only option. But most likely what it's for is, your house catches on fire and you just got to, grab the bags and you get everybody out of the house as soon as you can. Or if you had to leave because your house was destroyed in a tornado, you can throw those bags in your car, and you can go to your aunt's house and live, or you can go to a relative's house or something. And it's got change of clothes and some food and some basic stuff in there, copies of your important documents and stuff like that, some cash, just that kind of thing. You don't got to get real carried away with what you have in your bug out bags. Just think about, in an emergency situation, what would you need to function and get by for a few days? That's really kind of what you're looking for. All right, number 24, keep at least $1,000 cash in your home. Most situations are not going to be the big grid down nationwide situations where it's going to be this awful collapse and it's pandemonium everywhere. Those are very, very unlikely to happen. But what is more likely to happen is regional kind of disasters. One that comes to mind for me, and the reason that I started keeping cash in my house, was we had some straight line winds come through in Omaha, and it destroyed it didn't destroy our house, but it did like $25,000 worth of damage. And we were without power for 7 days, I think. And luckily, we were able to scrape by enough money to get a generator. I think it was $700 at the time, if I remember correctly. And so we made it. Like we got lucky when we went to the store. There was a generator there, and we got one before it was all sold out. And so having a little bit of cash and being able to make a quick purchase of something that you weren't really prepared for is a great idea, and it's a great way to be able to deal with problems, because money can usually help you solve problems in most circumstances. Okay, number 25 is, go figure, purchase a whole home or a large dual fuel generator and several large heavy-duty extension cords. So if you can get a whole home generator, I highly recommend it. They're expensive though, just the cost alone, $6,000 to $7,000, depending, and then you got installation and all that kind of stuff. So they're expensive. I realize that, but the most common disaster probably that people are going to face is power outages, because they happen all the time, and so having a whole home generator is awesome. I really, really recommend it. If you can't have a whole home generator though, the next best thing is to get a good dual fuel generator. I personally like the generators that will run off of natural gas, propane, or gasoline. And the reason I like the propane and the natural gas is because they don't have to be maintained the same way that like just a regular gas burning generator does, where you get the gas will gum up in it if you leave it sit too long and all that kind of stuff. Propane doesn't have that problem. And so it's just a lot easier to maintain in my opinion. You get a slightly less amount of output on propane, but it's not really enough to make a big difference. Okay, but having a generator is a huge force multiplier in any kind of disaster situation, because it allows you to continue refrigerating your food, and it allows you to continue having lights and those kinds of things. Now, it does bring along with it some additional OPSEC concerns, because other people might want to come take your generator and all that, which is why you need to be able to defend your home. All right. Number 26 is buy a large freezer, big deep freezer, fill it with meat. Get a half a side of beef, get a pork, get a pig or something along those lines. Get that all processed the way you want. That gives you some good long-term staying power when it comes to being able to feed yourself, especially if you've got a generator where you can make sure that it continues to run for a long term. But it also it'll allow you to help other people, if you need to feed your neighbors and feed other people and stuff like that. That's a good thing as well. And it also helps you develop a relationship with your local meat producer. In the coming days, and not days, but months and years and all that kind of stuff, knowing a local butcher is probably going to be important, because a lot of the big companies that process meat are moving away from that, and they're going towards fake meat, right? And maybe fake meat will be good, I don't know. But I kind of like, I'm an old-fashioned guy. All right, so number 27 is purchase 6 months worth of toiletries, personal medications, over-the-counter and prescription, and just make sure you got all that stuff, put away. Your deodorants, your shampoos, your shaving stuff and all that kind of thing. Have a few months of that stuff put back, because if there's supply chain disruptions and you can't get that stuff, it would be better if you just already had it. All right, number 28, take an advanced medical course. So with this, what I'm talking about is like maybe Bear Independent has got some medical courses that they do, like a TCCC kind of thing, learn the March algorithm, learn how to deal with, putting on a tourniquet, under fire, using simunitions and those kind of things. Learn how to do life-saving first aid. I think that would be a great investment of time and money. Number 29 is identify a suitable location to bug out to and create several contingency plans in case you are forced to leave your home. Again, like I was talking about earlier, it might just be going to Uncle Bob's house. Maybe it is going to a hotel that's kind of out in a rural area a couple of hours from your house and staying there for a little while. It doesn't necessarily have to be going out into the woods. That could be one potential contingency for you if you found a great place and you had some, tents and stuff and you could camp there. That might be an option. But it doesn't have to just be that. It can be realistic kind of options. But spend some time thinking about, if I did have to leave, where would I go? Who would I go to? Talk to those people ahead of time and say, hey, if something happened and we had to leave our house, would it be cool if we came and stayed with you guys for a couple of weeks while we got things squared away? Have those things worked out ahead of time so that you don't have to deal with it right in the middle of an emergency. Okay, number 30 is purchase an alternate way to heat your home. So maybe this is a pellet stove or a propane heater or a kerosene heater, and then make sure you've got enough fuel for at least a couple of weeks. Now, this was important here recently in Texas. Last February or something like that, when it got real cold and they started having power outages and people ended up freezing in their homes and everything because they didn't have a way to heat their house. So having alternate ways to heat your house are important. We have a boiler here, which is great. I love the capability that offers. But yeah, it just depends. On what your situation is, but just have some way that you can heat up at least a portion of your house. You don't have to heat the whole thing necessarily. You can kind of set up some blankets or something in your living room or whatever, and everybody could just, stay in the living room and have that be your warm room. Or it could be in like a master bedroom or something along those lines. It just depends on what you wanted to do. But you got to think about, what are we going to do if we have a power outage or especially in a situation where if your generator wasn't capable of running, say, an electric heater that you had in your home, then you definitely need to have that alternate source. You know what I mean? They got to work together. So just think about how all that stuff's going to go. And number 31, and most important, is subscribe to this channel and go to my website, AmericanPreppingAcademy.com, and sign up on the mailing list. And you're going to get tons of free resources over there on the website. You can take a look at it. Lots of in-depth lessons on all different kinds of things related to disaster preparedness and prepping. So I would appreciate it if you're new to the channel. Go ahead and subscribe, click the thumbs up button, and don't forget to live the 6 Ps. Proper prior preparation prevents poor performance. Stay safe, guys.